Hey, I'm KK, and I'm going to help you learn about how to compose today. Most music is made up of several things. If you want to sound cool and groovin', first you have to have a melody. This could be sung by a singer, or played by a violin, or a flute, or it could be played by one hand of the pianist on the piano. I'll let my piano teacher explain a little bit more about what makes a good melody.
It's a really famous melody. Has anybody heard that melody? It's interesting because it has different notes. It has big intervals, small intervals. It has stepwise motion. It also has rhythm. All rhythm is how you combine long and short sounds, sometimes even silences or rests. So this is long, then these are fast notes. Sometimes a melody would have a rest. Shh. Shh. And so forth. Has anybody heard that melody? Anyway, a melody really comes to life when you add harmony.
If a singer is singing the melody, then the harmony might be provided by a guitarist or a pianist or even an orchestra or band. If a solo violin or flute is playing the melody, then an orchestra or a pianist or some other combination of instruments might provide the harmony.
Pianist is special because he or she could play both the melody and the harmony at the same time. So let's say the melody, something like that, you could play that in the right hand. Meanwhile, the left hand could be doing some chords with that. So you put it together. Might play the melody in the left hand and the chords in the right hand.
Pianists who can also sing at the same time are even more special.
Well, because they could play harmony in both hands, say, while they sing the melody. So something like da 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 da.
No matter what you plan to compose, whether it's a composition for solo piano, or a song that will be sung, or a piece for violin and orchestra, there are several easy ways to get started. Now, while every composer may have a unique approach, here are a few very common ways people compose music. And I'll let my friend Sebastian explain the first one, or the easiest one.
Hey, Sebastian here, and I'm going to tell you about the simplest way to write a piece of music. The easiest way is to start with a harmony, then add a melody on top. So, what is harmony anyway? Well, it is the combination of different musical notes played or sung at the same time to produce a pleasing sound. So, two or more different singers combining different pitches could produce harmony. So for example, I'm pretty awesome when I sing this G. Really nice, huh? But if my friend here, Charlie, also sang this D at the same time, together we would have harmony if we sang at the same time. Are you ready? Charlie, 5, a 6, a 5, 6, 7, 8. Do we rock or what? It's really fun to make up your own harmonies as you sing along with different songs on the radio. Sometimes you might get a little bit off, but if you keep trying, you'll eventually find some notes that sound really pleasing. My teacher will explain about how you can achieve harmony on the piano.
On the piano, you can achieve harmony by playing just 2 different notes at the same time, or one right after another, like you're strumming a guitar or a harp. Some intervals sound more pleasing or consonant than others. Consonant is, they sound good together. Some sound a little more disagreeable. That's called dissonance. I'm going to play different intervals, and you tell me if you think they sound agreeable, consonant, or disagreeable. What do you think? What about this one? What do you think about that one? I think that's pretty dissonant. What about this one? If the piano were in tune, let me do it higher. I think that's pretty consonant. It sounds very agreeable and pleasing. What about this one? Yeah, I think dissonant, don't you? You don't agree. They want to resolve to a different interval. So I'm going to play all the different possible intervals you could do for harmony. This is a second. What do you think? Some might like it, some may not. A third, that sounds pretty good together. Fourth, what do you think? Fifth, I love fifths. Sixes, they sound really consonant. There's that nasty seventh. We probably only want to use that occasionally. And then an octave or an eighth. Now, when you play 3 or more notes at a time, you have a chord. They don't always have to be. It can be different intervals. They don't have to be thirds. All sorts of different combinations. But 3 or more notes at a time make a chord. And these are really the best way to provide rich harmonies that really make the melody come to life.
There are so many amazing chords we can choose from, and tons of different ways we can change up or vary these chords to provide even more colors and cool sounds. So you'll need to learn how to play intervals and chords, then learn how to link these chords together into a chord progression. Now, if you have a 3-note chord using stacks of skips, this is a triad.
A 3-note chord where you use a stack of skips. We're skipping over a white key and a letter name. This is called a triad. We're going to start with simple shapes like these simple 3-note chords, these triads. And there's different kinds of triads, but we'll start with major and minor. Then we'll learn some other chords and how to get inspiring sounds by changing them up or altering them just a little bit. So, the simplest way to compose is putting some chords together and then adding a melody on the top. And we're going to mostly focus on that in just a minute.
Another way to compose a song is to start with the words themselves. Words tend to have natural rhythms. So, for example, if you said the words football field, clap that with me. Football field, football field, football field. It sounds like short, short, long, short, short, long. Does anybody know what that would be if you used music notation? If you guessed 2 quarters and a half note, or 2 eighths and a quarter, you are right.
My teacher will show you another cool one.
So if you wanted to put the words "I will sail away on the blue sea" to a melody, you might first start out with a rhythm, da 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 bum, ba ba bum bum, which could be written different ways. You could have it half rest, quarter, 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 half note, quarter, tie, quarter, quarter, half note, or you could do it with 8th notes, rest, 2 eighths, eighths, quarter, eighths, tie, 2 eighths, quarter, quarter. But it just sort of feels like that rhythm to me. It could be different rhythms. That's why composing is fun, because everybody has their own idea. But then you've got to decide, does this melody, do those words, "I will sail away on a blue sea," does that need like a major sound? Does it need a minor sound? Or a D Dorian kind of a I mean, it's going to be different depending on maybe what you have in mind for the rest of the words. But to me, I hear kind of a happy, very pleasing. So I'd probably go with a major or one of the happier sounding modes. So I kind of like the sound of a major chord. I like A major, so we might try that. And then we'll experiment with different pitches that we could do with that melody, but use that rhythm. So let's get a major sound here, and then we'll add a melody. And that's okay, it's kind of weird.
Experiment with different melodies that use the notes of the A major scale.
No, I don't really like that one. I like that one better, but I'm still not liking it. Definitely don't like that one. I think it's a good idea to end on one of the notes of the one chord, you know, on A, if we're in A. Let me try one more. And I ended on A. I like that. And of course, that's what you heard earlier. So I chose a major sound, and I spiced it up, which we're going to learn how to do that. We ended up with I will sail away on the blue sea.
So as you saw, the first way of composing, where you start with the chords or the harmony and then add the melody, was much easier. And to me, it turns out to be more organic and a more honest melody when it comes out of the harmony. There are times, though, that you'll just think of a tune or a melody. It just pops right in your head, like the breeze blew it your way, or God inspired you. So, if that's the case, it's usually quite easy, once you have a melody like that, to add harmony to that.
Hey, Charlie Chaplin here, and I just want to say that sometimes, man, you might get an idea for a composition that is based more on an abstract idea, like an emotion, or a story you want to tell, or even just maybe a certain color or smell. The options are really limitless and will most definitely vary each time you create a new composition. But for simplicity's sake, we are going to focus now on the first way that Sebastian explained. Yeah, my way is definitely the easiest way. All you gotta do is find some cool chord progressions, then add a melody, then add words if you want to make it into a song. This way, you get it over with sooner, you get that composition written, and then you can get back sooner to some serious hammock sitting. And don't forget, you can build some really cool harmonic progressions just using intervals with just 2 notes.
But chords and triads are way more interesting. And I'll let my teacher explain how to build different triads.
Let's talk about a major triad first. First we talked about a triad was a stack of skips. We skipped over a key. Which keys did we skip? What's that? We skipped D and F, so we skipped 2 letter names. C, skip D, go to E, skip F, go to G. We also skipped 2 faintly bright kind of a sound of that. Very, very kind of bright sound, like you're smiling like the Cheshire Cat. Now, for those of you who know what half steps are, how many half steps between the bottom 2 notes? 4 half steps. And then how many half steps between the top 2 notes? 3 half steps. This is always the formula for a major triad.
All right, now it's time to go do some triad smarty drills.